So Lily, how are you?
I'm doing very well. I'm very happy to be in Amsterdam.
When you started writing music, creating music in your bedroom in the early days, did you envision ever touring or being in Amsterdam at some point and playing for people?
No, not at all. I don't even think I was sure I would be playing like the music live.
Okay.
So this is all very very surreal. I'm still processing it.
What was the initial conception then? What turned you to music? What made you write?
I mean, I grew up with a lot of music influences in my house, especially classic rock from my dad. Um, But I would say once I was about 18 and going to college, a lot of my friends were in bands and playing
Okay.
open mics. Pretty much everyone I met the first year was into music. So I think that kind of gave me the push and the confidence to try writing my own stuff. And it was really amazing having that community, that music community, as I was doing that.
And was there a point because well, let me phrase it a little bit differently. When did you feel like you had something that you were willing to share with people?
um, That's a really good question. I guess once I had figured out how to self-record,
Mm.
um, I there was one song that I had played a lot just to myself, but it kept getting stuck in my head. So I thought that would be a good sign. And my neighbor at the time, I had played it for her, and she was like, "Who is this?" So I was like, "Oh no, I just made this. I know it's bad, but I just wanted to show you." And she was like, "Oh my gosh, you have to put it somewhere. I'm gonna be so mad if you don't." Um, and I couldn't really accept that it was gonna go anywhere or do anything. But yeah, I think having that music community at that time, yeah, everyone was really encouraging, and I'm so
Okay.
happy I did that.
Well, what was the kitchen beatdown then? Because was that kind of the first time sharing it with people?
So Kitchen Beatdown, it was this house show kind of festival that happened around New Year's, hosted at a friend's house, where a bunch of local, mostly emo and like hardcore bands, um, would just get together and play, and there was always like a ton of people flooding the house. It was amazing, and I got the opportunity to play since I had known a lot of those friends. And I feel like that was my first time really. I played some open mics, but that felt like my first real show.
Okay.
Um, and it was just so funny being on a lineup that made no sense for me at the time. But yeah, it was great, and then I played it again once I had bandmates, so it
Okay.
was very fun.
Well, because I can imagine, especially when you the first time you did it, there must have been a lot of nerves, but for some reason, I think it stuck, right? Because you're performing live now. So what was it about being on stage or being in front of people and sharing those emotions and thoughts?
I really love that with music you can write something so personal and it can mean something totally different and relate to so many people. And I think being able to see that with people I knew, how they were connecting to the song, really kind of made me want to keep going and be vulnerable with my music, and just connect with people more.
Yeah, what I find interesting, you mentioned earlier that song that got stuck in your head, and now one thing I noticed about your music, it's very melodic, especially in the vocals. So did you hone in on that early on, or was that kind of a process over the years and throughout the EPs that you kind of honed in on that?
Um, I do think it's gotten better with time, but I think I was kind of mimicking the essence of songs I liked, which were vocal heavy and like
Hmm.
lots of lyricism and stuff. So yeah, I think looking at other bands I admired as a blueprint was really helpful.
And am I right in saying Marina Diamandis was kind of the main one?
Oh yeah.
What was it about her that struck you? I've spoken to her, and I think she makes incredible music. But what struck you about her?
I think in my formative kind of late teen years, I was really relating heavily to her lyrics, and I liked that her lyrics kind of go beyond just heartbreak and breakup songs, but cover all sorts of themes. Um, and she just does really cool visual work as well. So, like, I love how every album has a different theme. I think that's a big thing I took away for my own work is kind of having thematic albums.
Well, yeah, moving towards your latest record, then Emotional Creature, because emotional, that's not right. Oh, well, it was right.
Mm-hmm.
Emotional Creature. Um, what if you think about it now, because there has been some separation since it's been out and since you've kind of finished the album, what is your overall feeling then, though, the overall theme for you for this album?
I think a lot of the album was just me sort of working through and processing through my own emotions at the time and kind of letting go of a lot of shame and guilt that I had experienced. And now looking back, I would say a big a big thing for me is kind of almost feeling disconnected to the songs in a way.
Okay.
In a positive way though, that I've moved past those experiences a
Sure.
little bit. Um, so it kind of feels like I don't know, like pages in a diary from
Okay.
a year from the pandemic, kind of just some diary pages from that time.
Yeah, well, one I wrote a couple lines down. We don't have to go into all of them, but I think it was from Scream. I wrote down, I want to feel everything, but if I do, it makes me question if I'm falling wrong. I found that very interesting. So can you explain that a little bit? Kind of trying to feel open to the world, but then, as you say, and vulnerable, but as you say, then kind of not being sure whether the emotion is warranted or
Totally. I think that lyric and a lot of lyrics on the album are kind of talking about how I don't know my own personal relationship with my mental health that at the time was not very good,
okay.
and kind of still wanting to put on a smile and be perceived a certain way in the world, and kind of navigating, how what degree of being emotional is appropriate
Hmm.
in day to day. And I do think I was feeling a bit of shame and guilt around feeling kind of terrible at the time
Sure.
and maybe projecting that on a lot of different people. And I don't know, it was very much like an internal monologue.
Okay, because well, what I find fascinating about that then is because well, people now listen to your music, and a lot of young girls and then boys as well look up. They sing all the lyrics at the live shows. So, are you aware then of what you put out? Because you what kind of emotions you show to the outside world? Is that something that you are very aware of? Because as a somewhat of a public person, then people will kind of see what you're going through in a way.
Yeah, I remember right before it came out, I was really having second thoughts about some of the lyrics and some of the songs, and almost wanting to not put some songs
Okay.
out because it felt too vulnerable. Um, but I'm happy I did. I think at the end of the day, similar at the start, like it just has brought me closer to people and even people I don't know who are going through things. So music can be very like therapeutic in that way. But it is scary being vulnerable for sure.
No, but that's kind of what I was getting at because you mentioned that vulnerability side, but then you kind of have to push through it as an artist, I suppose, and then put it out, and what you get back from the people is then kind of worth it in the end. So what have you heard
Mm-hmm.
from people, or what have you? Is there one thing that somebody said to you that sticks out, or that you remember?
I can't remember one thing, but in general, I feel like a lot of people connected to the album because they were also going through a hard time in
Mm.
life. And I guess I've experienced this as a music listener too, but listening to the album kind of help process some of the stuff they were going through. Maybe like, I don't know, help them think through all the different thoughts that come up with stuff. So yeah, I'm happy that the songs can be helpful in some way and that people can connect.
But I suppose they're helpful for you as kind of the person who makes them as well, right? It can be, as you mentioned, therapeutic to get those emotions onto paper and kind of get them all out.
Absolutely. Sorry for all the noise.
Oh no, no worries. Um, so this is kind of a mean question, but what was the song that you're having doubts about? What one? What was the one that you thought, okay, I'm really being honest or vulnerable in this one, and I'm not sure about this one.
um Probably a tie between Entropy and Scream. I
Okay.
felt like those were both very hard to write. And I don't know, just it was weird, like admitting that I felt guilt and shame around certain
Mm.
emotion situations. That felt more vulnerable to me than just saying I was sad, if
Mm.
that makes sense.
Sure. Once kind of an album is done and like now you are touring, you mentioned there earlier that you kind of disconnect from those songs, kind of separate yourself from those songs a little bit. Do they evolve in that sense for you when you play them live and now over and over, I suppose? Do they evolve and then kind of uh, transform their meanings perhaps?
Yeah, I think so. I think in a way, you know, after my song's out there, it kind of becomes the audience's song in a way. Like it feels less like my song because everyone's taking pieces and applying to their own lives. And I think live, it's just interesting because some of the content of the songs is very sad, but when everyone's singing it in the crowd, everyone's smiling because they're having a good time. So I guess maybe it's just like a different layer of like the therapeutic or cathartic element to it. It's like another kind of processing. But eventually, the songs do just become old, and I'm just singing them because they're catchy. I'm not. I don't feel what I was feeling at the time anymore.
Sure. Well, the interesting with Entropy, it's one of those songs. It doesn't sound sad if you just listen to it at first glance. So that's very interesting. Well, to where you are now, then, what have you noticed about? I don't know if you're already writing new material, but what have you noticed then since you're in a different place now than you were when you wrote this album? What have you noticed where your thoughts are going now?
Wait, sorry. What was the last part?
Where your thoughts are going now? What kind of occupies your
Oh,
mind in a way?
I think I'm in a more peaceful and balanced
Okay.
mindset in general. And so I think musically, I definitely want to pivot away from some sad stuff. Personally, I would love to make like a fun pop album that's
Okay.
still me. I don't want it to be like cliche or anything, but I would like to talk about good things happening in my life too.
Well, final question then. What has been the best thing to happen to you in, let's say, the past couple of months?
Oh man, that's a hard one. I just got a cat, so that's been
Okay.
pretty wonderful.
Yeah,
Um,
that's amazing.
and I mean, getting to travel and tour to Europe, that's especially after like so many months in isolation and stuff has been like it's such a blessing, and I'm so excited to be here and meet everybody. It's really wonderful.
Well, that reminds me of one last question then, because especially your first album came out during a global pandemic, and there's we're part of the digital generation, social media and all that stuff, and there's a lot of numbers on screen, but they don't necessarily immediately relate to people. So once you're out there, as you are now, what has that been like to actually see the people who like your stuff?
Oh, very surreal, especially seeing like thinking of what rooms we were selling before the pandemic and how that's grown. Um, It's been just so cool to witness, and I love being able to see people sing the lyrics back and stuff. Um, I think it made me have like a new appreciation for music. Because think everything gets a little bit old in time, but yeah, I think this year like we were so excited to do a bunch of touring because it had been so long.
Right. Well, it's very good to hear. Lily, thank you so much for taking the time to talk with me. I hope you have a great show tonight and enjoy Amsterdam.
Thank you so much. Really nice to meet you.